We start with something I think is very helpful to just about everyone in our audience. Support for today's show comes from ZBiotics. And I have to tell you, this is one of those game changers that I now keep stocked at home. It's called Pre-Alcohol. It is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic designed by PhD scientists to help you feel your best after a night of drinks. Now, here's the deal. When you drink, that alcohol, it turns into a toxic byproduct right in your gut. And it is that buildup. It's not dehydration. That's what makes the next morning rough. So ZBiotics Pre-Alcohol produces an enzyme that breaks that byproduct down, and you wake up feeling sharp. The first time I tried it was before a dinner party, a couple of glasses of wine, maybe, a margarita or something. And the next morning, I was up early, walking the dogs, ready to go. And with fall here, you got tailgating, you're watching college football, you're celebrating the big win. Make ZBiotics your first drink of the night. Head to zbiotics.com/lemon and use the code LEMON at checkout for 15% off of your first order. They even offer a 100% money back guarantee. That's zbiotics.com/lemon. Drink smart, feel better. Hello, good morning, everyone. Where is Don? It's 20 after. It's Hot Topics. I will explain, but not until you hit the thumbs up, and then I'll explain. I don't know if you followed our journey last night. Some of it was on Twitch, some of it on social media. So we were, as you know, I was in Chicago. Welcome. I'm so glad. Thank you for being here. Thank you for waiting and being so patient. So we were in Chicago yesterday, and I don't know if you guys know, but there was a nor'easter here in the Northeast, and in New York, we were delayed 4 hours, and they let everyone into the airport lounge, and we sat there. I did my show from the airport lounge. That's how long I was there. We got there early. Let me back up. So we're driving to the airport, and then the traffic on, I think it was a Dan Ryan, I forget whichever one, Ike, I forget, whatever. And you guys let me know in Chicago, whichever one goes to O'Hare. And then that was delayed. And so then my producers, the social media guy says, okay, Don, we'll drop you off at the, departures. We'll drop you and Mike, the camera guy, Mike, off at departures. And then you guys can go in, you guys can get in the lounge, you can do the show, blah, blah, blah. And we'll take the rental car back. So, okay, cool. Drop me off. I dropped me off. I went through the security line. This guy was talking to me. He's like, hey, oh my God, you're famous, whatever. Can I get a picture? I'm like, sure. And then, so I was really distracted. Luckily, Mike was there. And I go into my pocket in my jacket to take everything out. And the rental car key is in my jacket. Has anybody ever had that happen? So the rental car key was in my jacket. And I was like, oh shit. I said, Mike, help. Do you mind taking this out to the guys? I'll call them, because I thought the car had stopped on the side of the road, because some of the cars, if you get too far away from the key, it'll just die. So luckily the car did not die. They were driving to the rental car place and whatever. So Mike went out and did it. So that's how it started. And then we kept getting delay after delay after delay. We didn't leave Chicago until well after 10 o'clock. I think I got home at like 2 a.m. I didn't get to bed until 3. So here I am. That's my sob story. That is my sob story. So good morning, everybody. Hit the thumbs up, hit the like, subscribe, all of that stuff. You've had one of those, right? Yep. Welcome to Chicago, someone said. But it wasn't O'Hare, but they closed the lounge. So we had to end up going out of the lounge. Okay, so here's the thing. On the road, you eat like crap. I eat like crap on the road because it's just too many temptations. There's always some sort of fast food, pizza, something, and then you order in and you whatever from Uber Eats or Seamless or, whatever the thing is, whatever the delivery app is, and Postmates, whatever. Is Postmates still around? I think it is. And so I ate very badly as I was in Chicago or traveling to Chicago. And so they kick us out of the lounge. We're the last people to leave, like literally the last people to leave. And we get to there's a Burger King on the way. And so we're like, let's go check to see if the plane is here. Plane was not there yet. So we double back, go to Burger King, because everybody in my group loves a Whopper. So we get to the Burger King, and as soon as we get there, the guy before me got the last freaking Whopper. What up, Universe Karma? You know how much I love a Whopper, especially a Whopper Jr., because it just satisfies, and it's not, you don't get all the calories, but you get the taste. I love a Whopper. So Burger King, help a brother out. You guys call Burger King and tell him, get with the program. So I had to get like a spicy chicken sandwich, which was okay. But my thing is a Whopper Jr., cut it in half, get the onion rings with it. Boom. It's over. It's great. Not that fattening. Anyway, I digress. What am I doing? I'm talking about what's happening in the world. So thank you guys. That was my evening. I'm back now. No sleep. So I'm a little bit scattered, but I'm here. So good morning, my friends. Welcome to the Don Lemon Show. So this is what's happening. Have you guys noticed that MAGA influencers and MAGA, the Manosphere podcasters, they are turning against Donald Trump. They helped Donald Trump to win in 2024. But I don't know if they helped him win, but they went a long way in solidifying the president's support among large swaths of young men who followed them 10 months into the implementation of the president's agenda. And the same ultra popular figures, streamers, even some politicians. It's not just the manosphere. It's MAGA influencers and MAGA politicians. They lent their audiences and their names to the president's 2024 efforts. Now they wanted him to scramble to break government, right? Now they are turning against him. They're turning against him because of this administration's authoritarian approaches to immigration enforcement, Gaza, the First Amendment. They have become real points of contention for many content creators, previously considered reliable MAGA liaisons just months ago. And not just content creators, as I said, it is MAGA politicians as well. Have you guys seen Marjorie Taylor Greene? Marjorie Taylor Greene is woke. There was someone, I think it was my friend Ahmed Baba, I'll play it a little bit later, who said, I would think that was like any sort of Democratic politician if I actually sat down and I didn't know who Marjorie Taylor Greene was. None of what Donald Trump has done since retaking office should come as a shock to anyone. He has been vowing to go after immigrants, as well as his critics and his political opponents, and not only vowing to go after them, he has been going after them. He has been prosecuting Comey, Letitia James, what's his former national security advisor. What's the guy's name with the beard? I can't remember his name. With the mustache. That guy. You know who I'm talking about. He's been going after them for years. His plans for ruthless, relentless mass deportations. He said that he was going to do it. Yes, John Bolton, thank you. They were as explicit as his designation of migrants as poison to the blood of our nation. That's what he said. It is really a shame that these people who helped to put him back into office only seem to be realizing all of that now. It's a real shame. Now, I don't know if you can call this FAFO. I'm not sure if you want to call it FAFO or whatever it is that you want to call it. But whatever it is, I think it's a real shame. Because those are the folks who I want to talk to today. I'm talking to you today, the audience, but I'm also talking to them, the MAGA faithful, the ones who still chant America first. And then, but their movement, Donald Trump's movement, is being sold out from within by him. Because right now, what we're witnessing is it's not politics as usual. It's it's ugly, it's an implosion. The movement is imploding. It's a movement that was always more fragile than it looked because it was built on lies, right? And they feel like it is a betrayal right now. It's not a sudden one, but one that is years in the making now. And it is happening really in broad daylight. Examples soon to come. Remember, like the Donald Trump and the MAGA folks, like they said to you, oh my gosh, we are the outsiders. They told you that they were the outsiders, the revolution, right? The new folks that were going to change government and change America. They told you that they were here to save America from the elites. But they turned out to be the elites. They turned out to be the people who are actually helping the elites, who are helping the elites get richer and pay fewer taxes. But the moment, as always, though, Republicans, since the beginning of time, the moment that power touches their hands, they become the very thing that they swore that they were going to destroy and get rid of. And now that same sort of betrayal is surfacing in public. And then it's cracking and fissuring. Is that a thing? That the very base that once crowned Donald Trump a political messiah, that made him a cult figure, that made him the king that he thinks he is. All over the right wing, voices have once shouted, build the wall, America first, drain the swamp, make America great, are muttering words now like liar, sellout, grifter, even the pedophile word. They are the PDF files, as they say, word. They are demanding answers about everything from the Epstein files to Medicare. Like, why is the government shut down? They're furious about the deals that were made behind closed doors, like, you know, the Qatar military training facility. Same people who once dismissed every criticism. Fake news, that's one of them. Now they're all saying, like, and they're not even really whispering it. They're like, oh, this is not what I voted for. Yeah, it is what you voted for. And I'm sick of it. I'm sick of, like, the broadcasters, the manosphere folks, the comedians. I didn't vote for this. Man, what is he doing? He's turning me up like Theo Von. You didn't know? Schultz, Andrew Schultz, you didn't know? Come on. You guys knew. And if you didn't know, damn, wow, really? I thought that you were like fairly smart guys. You didn't know that? The thing that I'm shocked, well, I shouldn't be, because some people are doing it. I think Joe Rogan is doing it and some other folks, but I'm shocked that more people, especially Republicans, are not up in arms, screaming from the rooftops about due process, about the government. Like this is a military takeover. It's a military state that we're living in. We're just yanking people off the streets. They're not talking about the Fifth Amendment. They're not talking about due process for all persons and not just citizens. Then nothing. They're not talking about any of that. They say this is not what I voted for. Okay, maybe. I'm not so sure, because the loyalty that they gave him was never a real loyalty. It was either built on a grift, it was built on illusions, on slogans, on rage. It was a fantasy that one man could bend the arc of history by sheer force or just ego. I mean, he's pretty good at shape-shifting, and so are they. Like Marjorie Taylor Greene. Marjorie Taylor Greene, man, she is doing some shape-shifting right now. It's pretty crazy. But here's the truth, like, if you want to know about cults, because I've been around a long time. I was a person who was of sound mind. I mean, I wasn't just a child when Jim Jones was around, so I know about cults. And I mean, if you want to call David Koresh cult, whatever you want to call it, I know about cults. It always ends this way. The person who is a prophet or the dear leader becomes the tyrant, right? Drink. Then they tell you, they make you start doing things. You're like, why am I doing this? You start to question it. Then the savior becomes the scam or the scammer. And people, the ordinary people who believed, they are left holding the bill if they are even left around at all. So we've seen all of this in history before. We saw it when the silent majority rose up in the Nixon years, only to watch their champion resign in disgrace. We saw it when Reagan preached small government and then ballooning. Remember, Reagan preached small government and then he ballooned the state, and then he sold weapons under the table. And then we saw it when George W. Bush sent a generation, quite frankly, of folks to die in a war built on lies. Each and every time they said that they were fighting for America, and each time they betrayed the very people that they claimed to serve. This is just the latest chapter in a very old book. So instead of an old book, what we need more than anything is a new breed of politician. Some folks say that that's happening in New York with the mayoral race. Some folks say it's happening all across America with a new breed of Democrats now coming into office? There's someone in Michigan that we're going to introduce you to. He's a physician, he's an epidemiologist and an author. And he also happens to be running for the open Senate seat in the great state of Michigan. And his name is Dr. Abdul El-Sayed. Now, I want to show him to you now. Doctor, welcome to the program. Good to see you.
It is a privilege to be with you, and I'm sorry for the janky situation. My computer died, and so we're doing this by phone, but it's 2025, so
Here's
here we
the
are.
thing. Don't even worry about it, because I've had one of those days. Oh, the nice black t-shirt. So I'm glad we're matching. So here's the thing. I've just told my audience how I was stuck in the airport and we were the last ones in the lounge and I got home at 2 a.m. So I'm a little disheveled. Don't even worry about it. The folks here will love you. But I want to show folks who you are before I introduce you personally. I want to show the ad, and then I'm going to get a 2-minute break so we can get a word from our sponsors. But this is how he is introducing himself and his campaign to the folks in Michigan. Here it is.
This is the American dream. Regular people stacking together a life. Housing, good education, healthcare, a job that pays a living wage. But right now, Trump's terrible economy is driving inflation from everything from housing to healthcare to food. And all of it goes back to one thing: greed. While you're struggling to build the basics, billionaires and corporate CEOs, they're stacking and rigging the rules to build theirs ever higher. Look, nobody needs $100 billion, just like nobody needs a 12-stack cheeseburger. It's not even like you could even enjoy it.
Oh my gosh.
It's not possible. And this is the point. Why you need all that money? It's painful to try and consume it all. You literally can't. You don't have the time. Yeah, man, I'm not gonna be able to do it.
Tapping out.
Yeah, I'm done. Thank you.
Tapped out at 8:59.
I'm running for U.S. Senate because I am sick of the greed. I'm sick of the oligarchs and the billionaires who gorge themselves while Michiganders go hungry. But right now, I'm just kind of sick.
Okay, so we're gonna find out. How much did he eat? Did he really eat all of that? He could probably use one of our sponsors, Lean, after eating all that big meal. And also, I have to look. I'm gonna disagree with you on something, but first, a word from our sponsors, and then we're back. We're gonna talk to the doctor. The Don Lemon Show is brought to you by my friends over at Radioactive Media. I want you to listen to this. They are an audio marketing expert company that helps businesses harness streamers, influencers, journalists, just like me, and it helps us to grow. If you run a business or lead marketing, podcasting is not an option anymore. It's not optional. It is how people spend their time and build trust. Did you know that podcast ad spending is up 33% this year? And shows like mine that combine audio and video, up almost 98%. That's almost 100%. Crazy. More than half of Americans now listen to podcasts monthly for nearly an hour a day. They don't just tune in, they lean in. They trust the voices they hear. Radioactive Media knows how to launch, optimize, and scale campaigns that actually work. They even combine audio, video, and text to get you up to 5 times more leads. Who would not want that? So here's how you start. You text podcast to 511-511, or you visit radioactivemedia.com. Plan ahead now for 2026. Lock in the best rates. That's podcast. You can text podcast to 511-511 and let them show you how to make your marketing sound better. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. October is World Mental Health Month, and this year we're saying thank you to therapists, the people who show up, listen, and help us move forward. Now, I got to tell you, I've been in therapy myself, and those moments of breakthrough or even just having a safe space to say what's on your mind, that can be life-changing. BetterHelp has helped more than 5 million people start that journey. With over 30,000 licensed therapists, they make it easy to find the right one. You fill out a short questionnaire, they do the matching, and if it's not the right fit, you can switch at any time. This October, honor your mental health and maybe take that first step. I want you to do this. I want you to go and visit betterhelp.com/Don Lemon, and you get 10% off of your first month. That's betterhelp.com/Don Lemon, because help is always worth reaching for. Your mental health is very important. And thank you so much to our sponsors. Back now with Dr. Abdul El-Sayed is a physician. He's an epidemiologist and the author, and he also happens to be running for an open Senate seat in the great state of Michigan. And I'll talk about, exactly who his opponents are and whatever. But I got to tell you, so number one, did you eat that whole burger and fries yourself, or almost all of it?
I couldn't. So it was a 12-stack cheeseburger. I ended up finishing about 7 of the burgers. Suffice it to say, I have not had a burger since. And then the challenge is this incredible burger spot called Hamburger Mikey in Muskegon. You eat the whole 12-stack burger and then a shake and fries, and you do it in 11 minutes. And so you heard me clock out there at 8:50. I barely got through 7 of the burgers, and I couldn't touch the shake. I had maybe 5 fries. I don't know how people actually do this. It's humanly impossible. But that was kind of the point we were trying to make, which is what do you even do with $1 billion? And folks are jealously guarding their billions to make yet more billions. And you got folks who can't even put together a decent single stack burger.
So what I was going to say that I disagree with you on, I don't really, is that you said you don't need $100 billion. I would, but I would give all of it away if I had $100 million, and I would give it to, to help folks. So who really needs that? Look, after we don't need as much as we think we do, even if we're not rich, right?
That's right. So and Don, I bet you, if you had that much money, you wouldn't mind if the federal government said, you know what, we're gonna put over a 3% tax so that we can pay for the public schools and the universities and the hospitals that help you along the way, right? That are there so that the next person can make their millions. And that's the point, right? It's not that we want to begrudge them their whole $1 billion. It's that a little bit of extra tax to help to redistribute, to create the kind of society that we all want to live in, to empower people to have opportunities that otherwise they might not have. That's not that bad.
Well, I think that's very important for everyone, but especially the immigrants who come to America and made so much money. I think they should be more grateful, and they should be thankful for the opportunity that they live in a country, that we all live in a country, whether we are native born or not, or we're immigrants or not, that we all live in a country that affords us the opportunity to become a millionaire or a billionaire and to help other people. We have enough resources to go around. It's just that we have to start changing our thinking about how we allocate that money. So I'm not nearly a billionaire. I am, I do have a certain privilege financially. I have never really complained. I may go, oh my God, this tax check is killing me. I can't believe I have to write this, whatever. But that's just, we all do that. But at the end of the day, I don't mind paying more taxes if I'm making more money, especially when I live in, a city and I walk by people I see that living on the streets and who I know deserve a better life than that. And I know that Republicans have cut the funding for the facilities that put those people out on the street. So it's all in really how we think about it, frame it, and our mindset in helping others and how we reallocate wealth in this country.
It's also the notion that, if you're a billionaire, you're probably making that money in some sort of enterprise that requires functional infrastructure, that requires people to have good education so that they can be employed in your company, that requires them to have healthcare should they get sick. We work in a world with other people. And I think there are some folks who just want to deny that fact, that we rely on each other and we're all better off when we're all better off. And that there's a little bit that folks who make that extra bit ought to be able to pay back into a system because they benefit the most from that system. And that's the thing about it, is that I would rather live in a world where those folks can help to re-empower everyone else. I'd love to see a bit of a billionaire tax go back into a revolving small business support and grant fund, right? So that you can have somebody have the opportunity to build their business and their next opportunity. Because that's the thing about it, is it's recognizing that you didn't do it on your own. We all did it together. And for those folks with that ingenuity and that ability to build a great business, fantastic. And then let's make sure that the system keeps working, not that you get there and then you pull the ladder up for everybody else.
Yeah. We're speaking, by the way, guys, a great engagement this morning. For some reason, the audience is here for Dr. El-Sayed. But so I don't know, maybe it's a black t-shirt. Maybe it's just that he's so handsome. Maybe it's that he can eat a bunch of hamburgers or cheeseburgers. But let me just tell you who he is. We're talking about He's running in Michigan for Senate. And so he is as I said, a physician, an epidemiologist. He's an author as well. But he has two Democratic opponents in the primary. Haley Stevens, who is reportedly backed by Chuck Schumer and Senate Democrats, and Mallory McMorrow. The trio's neck and neck in most of the polls. So whichever Democrat is victorious, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. El-Sayed, whoever's victorious in their primary, they're going to face stiff competition in former Congressman Mike Rogers, who lost his last U.S. Senate race against Alyssa Slotkin in 2024, fewer than 20,000 votes.
That's exactly right. And Mike Rogers is a historically bad candidate for Senate. I mean, he underperformed Donald Trump by more than Alyssa Slotkin underperformed Kamala Harris. So, when he failed to get across the finish line when Donald Trump was on the ballot, imagine what happens in 2026 when everybody finally has the opportunity to go to the ballot box and tell Donald Trump what they really think about he and his party. Imagine what that's going to mean for Mike Rogers. This is also a guy, he voted while he was in Congress to raise prescription drug prices 60 times. And then when he retired from Congress, he went to go work as a pharmaceutical lobbyist and then moved to Florida. Like, you can't make this stuff up. And who better to prosecute that case than a guy with 2 doctorates who rebuilt Detroit's health department, led Wayne County's health department, helped to eliminate upwards of $700 million of medical debt for 300,000 people, put glasses on kids' faces, and made sure that corporate polluters weren't poisoning their kids' lungs. So I would love to have the opportunity to go blow for blow with somebody like Mike Rogers and demonstrate that these people are beatable, their ideology is defunct, and that we have an opportunity to beat them with something better. And the question is whether or not we're willing to play to win, or we want to keep playing not to lose, which I think at some point, if you keep playing not to lose, you lose.
Look, before you came on, I was telling my audience about how many in the MAGA sphere, including politicians and streamers and influencers, are now turning against Donald Trump. They're saying, wait a minute, this is not what I voted for. They said that they were the outsiders. And I said, the moment that power touches their hands, right, they start, regressing on everything that they promised. And it shows me that their core beliefs aren't really true. What they care about is money, and what they care about is power. And so this whole this whole idea about being an outsider, I'm wondering if you feel like the outsider right now, especially considering this ad that you ran, that you made fun of your name, kind of like, Barack Hussein Obama style. Here it is.
An all-American story. Public schools, high school football captain, scooped ice cream, loved his Camaro. Lacrosse at U of M, an academic scholarship to med school, Michigan values, and a life of service to Michigan. His name? Abdul El-Sayed.
I know. It's a name built for American politics. My name is Abdul El-Sayed. I'm running for U.S. Senate. Let's go.
let me just say, you know why? Look, I don't vote in Michigan, okay? But couple things. You said that you're the podcast bro, right? Which is relatable to a lot of people. I don't know if you saw the ad that more people get their information from podcasts now. Advertising is up 98%, almost 100%, because people relate to what we do in these spaces. They feel that they can trust us. Number two, you're reaching out to the people I believe that the Democratic Party has lost over the years, and that is the working class people who really care about their jobs, putting food on their table, and getting health insurance, being able to take care of their families. And Democrats kind of got off in some other issues. We don't have to go there. But also, and I think it's also, you're extremely relatable. You know, I know that you probably don't like this comparison, but I'm sure you've heard comparisons about Mamdani here in New York City, you know, the young, relatable candidate. So do you feel like an outsider? And do you think this is a new lane that Democrats, not so new, but kind of going back to their roots with new faces?
Yeah, well, I really appreciate that question. Let's just start with Trump for a second, because this is a guy who's never been an outsider. I mean, he's been an outsider by his own making. His dad left him a loan of millions of dollars. I don't know about you, but my dad didn't give me a loan of millions of dollars, right? Like what we earned, we had to earn. And I was raised by my father, an Egyptian immigrant, and then my stepmom, Jackie, who's a daughter of the revolution from the middle of the state of Michigan, who comes from farming folk. And so, you know, when you look like me, you got a name like mine, you start to realize that, first of all, the notion that there are a group of people who control the keys and lock out everyone else, you start to see very quickly. But then second, you start to rethink what it is that leaves us locked out. Those folks who have been locking us out for a very long time, they rely on our division to keep us locked out. And, you know, I have this experience of being shipped off to Egypt, where my dad immigrated from, and spending my time with my illiterate grandmother, and then coming back in the middle of the summer to my grandmother, who's a nurse who trained at Hurley Hospital in Flint. And when you have to explain one of your grandmas to the other grandma, but then you realize that when they kiss you on the forehead and they make your favorite meal, that it's that same love, you start to realize that the things that make us different are so much smaller than the things that bring us together. And if we can come together around the things that we need, basic healthcare for our kids, a job that pays a good wage that isn't going to kick us out tomorrow, the ability to afford a meal for our children, the ability to know that that home that you spent so much time to afford is going to be there for you a week from now, a year from now, that when we can connect on those things, that we can actually unlock the system from folks like Donald Trump. And that's what we're building a movement to do. And so I think you're right that that notion that the real divide in our politics isn't left versus right, but the folks who've been locked out and the people who are locking them out by dividing us from each other and telling us that we don't need the same things. I think that's the real critical piece. And so we're trying to build a coalition of the folks who have been locked out to unlock the system for all of us.
Yeah, listen, I know that we have you for a certain amount of time, but we're a little bit late. So if you will please indulge me, I have to ask you about Gaza. I don't know if you saw what I said yesterday regarding this peace deal. It hasn't come to full fruition yet. I think what we need to see is what's in it for the people of Gaza. What's next? What's the rebuilding? Because if it's heavily weighted towards Israel and the folks in Gaza don't get what they should fairly get out of it, which is rebuilding, which is respect, which is autonomy, and a bunch of other things, and is it really a peace deal? So I'm wondering what your constituents make of this Gaza so-called, it's not so-called, pardon me, so far ceasefire. I hope that it holds, but I do hope that Palestinian people and the people in Gaza actually get what they deserve. Michigan has a huge population of Muslim and Arab Americans, and I'm just wondering what you and your constituents think.
Yeah, and first, I'm happy to stay as long as you'll have me. I'm sorry for being late. My computer was dead. Forgive me. I want to say three things about this. The first is we always pray for peace, and the ending of a genocide, the return home of hostages on either side, is an unalloyed good. This is a moment for celebration and a sigh of relief. And yet, the second point is that you cannot have peace, true lasting peace, without justice. And this so-called deal puts too much power in the hands of the people who just perpetrated a genocide. And the notion that we would continue to shade somebody like Benjamin Netanyahu folks like Itamar Ben-Gvir and Bezalel Smotrich from accountability before the institutions of international law is a foundational problem. And I think we as a country have to come to grips with where our tax dollars have been spent. $22 billion spent to subsidize a genocide. And that's the third part. I'm not running for Senate from Tel Aviv and not running for Senate from Gaza. I'm running for senator from Michigan. And here in Michigan, I can travel all over our state and I can see kids who are starving. I can look at schools that are crumbling. I can see healthcare systems that are struggling and shutting down. And the notion that we continue to send our money to foreign militaries, and it's not just Israel, it's Egypt, it is Saudi Arabia, it's Pakistan, instead of investing in our kids here at home is a foundational problem. So somebody who is running for Senate from Michigan should want to make sure that Michigan tax dollars are well spent and that they're spent here in Michigan. And the notion that for 2 years and far longer than that, we have been subsidizing a genocide, and before that, a brutal occupation and siege, rather than investing in problems here at home, should trouble all of us in this country. And I just believe deeply that if we're serious about peace, that peace has to be built on justice, not just an end to violence now, right? But a real pathway to liberation and self-determination and peace and dignity for Palestinians and Jewish Israelis alike. And I just think that when our tax dollars are part of making that worse, we have a set of questions we have to answer here about how we make our problems better rather than making other people's problems worse.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. And I agree wholeheartedly, but it really troubled me as I watched sort of the pageantry yesterday, and knowing I'm not as steeped in the history of it as probably you are, and all of the, the intricate information. But just watching the pictures yesterday, it reminded me, it seemed sort of stagecrafty. I felt like I was watching a Trump Inc. production of everything that was happening. And I just kept wondering as I was reading and listening to all of the analysis and what levers they had to hit next in order to continue to make this ceasefire and peace deal work. And I kept saying, well, where is the stuff about the concrete stuff about actually rebuilding the concrete in Gaza? Where's all of that? Where are the hospitals? Where are the libraries? Where are the schools? Where's the concrete information that this is actually going to take place? I was watching Richard Haas, who's a foreign policy expert. I think he was on MSNBC yesterday, and he had this analysis, and I wonder if you agree with it. Here it is.
Next.
Well, it's going to be next to these immediate, these meetings, perhaps some of the first steps of this plan, but then we're going to have Israeli elections. And you're not going to have an accounting on October 7th before Israeli elections because Bibi Netanyahu will still be prime minister. So he's going to run for re-election. My guess is sometime this spring, against the backdrop of having, one, defeated Iran, and two, now brought the hostages home, even though some Israelis will not forgive him for the delay. My guess is he stands a pretty good chance. This is not advocacy. This is analysis. I think he's got a pretty good chance of getting the most votes. Then we'll see what's the political nature of the government he forms. Then we begin the new phase, which, if you will, is open-ended, which is the question of what comes next. And the real question for President Trump is, do we put on the table something that really begins to flesh out a peace? Because if you read the 20-point plan, the last 2 points deal with the political aspirations and trajectory of the Palestinians. They could not be more vague if you tried. They are essentially empty of content. And the question is, does the United States begin to fill out some of that content? And do we begin to push it? And do we basically make the peace, if we have to, over the heads of a reluctant Israeli government? Do we begin to work with the Palestinians, the Arabs, to build an acceptable partner for Israel? Negotiations don't just happen at the table. All the work to get to the table is going to be up to us. It's going to mean stabilizing Gaza, rebuilding Gaza, coming up with an acceptable Palestinian partner, selling the Israeli public, which in turn will push the Israeli leadership. That's going to be on the United States. That's the history of Middle East peacemaking. The question is this administration prepared to do that work? This would have to become one of the priorities, probably the leading or one of the two leading foreign policy priorities for this administration. And the question is, are they prepared to do it?
Doctor, what do you say to that?
So I think your viewer Therese summed it up perfectly. Trump only cares about Trump. This is all an effort to put a trophy on the mantle for Donald Trump because of his own personal narcissism and egoism. Now, look, the fact that we are in a position right now where hostages on both sides have been released, where there are not bombs dropping on Gaza and children being murdered, that is, like I said, a very good thing. But I'll tell you this. One of the challenges has been that we have often assumed that it is the right and responsibility of American policymakers to make policy about what happens over there. And there is a hubris implicit in that, in thinking that we get to call shots over there. But even then, right, it's always wild to me that every president before this one has articulated a belief in a two-state solution, okay? And then the question that you always get asked is, does Israel have a right to exist? Israel exists. Clearly, Israel exists. But you know what nobody ever asks you when you're running for office? Does Palestine have a right to exist? And yet our policies have been about aiding, arming, and abetting the very people in Israeli society who have tried to foreclose on the possibility of a Palestine. And what Haas is talking about here is the notion that Bibi Netanyahu is likely to win his re-election. Should be a crazy thing. The dude perpetrated a genocide and on top of that failed to keep even the basic sense of security for his own people. On what grounds does somebody like that get reelected? And yet, while we were watching a genocide in Gaza, they were also continuing to ship in settlers in places like the West Bank, continuing to disappear people off the streets in the West Bank. And that is about perpetrating facts on the ground to undo the possibility that there should be Palestinian sovereignty in the West Bank. And so what I'm seeing here is a set of actors that has both perpetrated a genocide and also are trying to foreclose on the possibility that there should be a pathway to liberation and self-determination for the Palestinian people. And as an American who believes that my tax dollars ought to be spent here in America, the notion that we are sending them to underwrite people who want to do that, that to me seems foolish and hypocritical. And the question that we have here is, do we want to be honest about what goals ought to be both here in America and how our money gets used abroad? And that's something that in the US Senate, accountability and responsibility to our people here at home, and also to not make problems worse abroad, that to me is foundational. And we don't have many of those voices in the US Senate, which is 100% part of the problem.
Thank you for answering that question. I want to, do I really have you for a few more minutes? Because I want to ask you about what other things that are going on in the world. You have to, look, I got to pay the bills, okay, to stay in the streaming world. So here's what I want to do. I want to talk to Dr. El-Sayed about what's happening on American streets with ICE and members of the military being out on the streets. And also right now, MAGA, many of them, as I told you in the beginning of this program, they are turning on Donald Trump. They're fed up. They're wondering, why did I vote for this? Or this is not what I voted for. Give me 2 minutes and we're back with Dr. Abdul El-Sayed in just moments. 2 minutes. Today's show is brought to you by Graza. That's my go-to olive oil now. I love cooking for friends and family, and Graza has completely upgraded my kitchen. They pick, press, and bottle their olives in the same season, so the oil is always fresh. You can even see the harvest date. That harvest date is right on the bottle, as a matter of fact. They make two. One is called Sizzle. That's your everyday cooking for roasting and sauteing, etc. And then there's Drizzle. That's the bowl finishing oil for bread, salads, even ice cream. You can do a little in a martini. I'm telling you, it works. So I use Sizzle in the skillet and Drizzle right before serving. And that final touch, it makes the food just really sing. Now's the perfect time to stock up. Graza's annual site-wide sale is on through October 31st. Everything is 20.74% off. Yeah, 20.74% off. No code needed. So go to graza.co. That's graza.co. Grab yours today. Your food and your friends and your stomach and your taste buds will thank you. Support for today's show comes from Lean. Lean is a smarter way to approach weight loss. We have all done the yo-yo thing, the diets. You lose 10 pounds, you gain 12 or 15 back, sometimes more. Doctors call it weight cycling, and it can increase risks of diabetes, heart disease, and more. So lean is a non-prescription oral supplement, not a GLP-1 shot. It's created by doctors to help break that cycle. It works in 3 ways. It supports healthy blood sugar, it helps control appetite and cravings, and it converts fat into energy, which means you're burning it. You're not storing it. So I started using lean to support my own routine, and it has helped me keep my energy steady and my habits consistent. So if you're ready to lose weight at a healthy pace and keep it off, go to takelean, LEAN.com, takelean.com, and use the code LEMON for 20% off of your order. That's takelean.com, promo code LEMON, and start making some real progress. Thank you to all of our sponsors. Yes, thank you very much to all of our sponsors. Doctor, I don't know if you've been paying attention to our coverage, but I've been out on the streets of Chicago. I just got back from Chicago late last night or early this morning. I witnessed some of the standoffs and skirmishes there in the streets. I want to play you a little bit of it, and then I want to talk to you about it. Here it is. From all the shuffling and skirmishes that are happening here, they've moved people back. Yeah, they're telling us it's the first time they've seen the ICE agents come out. They're saying you need to move or you'll be arrested. That's what the officers are saying. And then, so doctor, if we leave this up, you'll see some of the pushing, the officers move in. We'll just leave it up without sound. But the only violence I really saw there is when they were trying to curtail the protesters who were peaceful. And so, it's very concerning to me that I feel like the administration may be looking for ways that they can invoke the Insurrection Act by somehow inciting people to violence. And then, of course, we have the images of people being picked up off the street, being thrown to the ground, handcuffed, kicked, beaten, taken into custody. I spoke to a man who was an American citizen who had all of his information with him, including his birth certificate. They didn't want to see any of that.
Don, I mean, this imagery should sicken all of us. That is an American neighborhood. On any given Sunday, you should be able to walk down that neighborhood and folks are in their house watching the Bears. The idea that you have a standoff with federal agents is manufactured by Donald Trump and his goons for one purpose: to deliver yet more power over our peaceful streets to him and them. That is their whole point. This administration has weaponized the idea of immigration to tear apart our Constitution. They are doing it left, right, and center. Whether it's the attack on habeas corpus, whether it's the attack on due process, whether it's the attack on our streets generally, and the notion that you should not have American troops on the streets. Just remember, the whole Bill of Rights was developed specifically to protect the American people from overstepping by the government. That's why the whole thing was created. And here you have this administration creating this. And what they're hoping to do is they're trying to create this imagery to use to politically justify bringing yet more federal agents and troops onto U.S. streets. And we have a responsibility to stand up to that. Now, the hard part is this: when they're trying to provoke violence, violence begets the outcome that they want. What we have to all commit ourselves to doing is peaceful, nonviolent protest. Peaceful, nonviolent protest. And look, our elected officials have to use every shred and ounce of power within the bounds of the Constitution and that goal of peaceful, nonviolent protest to hold this administration accountable. My family comes from Egypt. I know the difference between kidnapping and arrest. Arrest is when they tell you who they are, why they're detaining you, and what you need to do to challenge that. Kidnapping is when they don't tell you who they are. They pick you up and you got nothing you can say about it. And that difference is the rule of law, and they're attacking it right now.
Yeah, they are. But I got to tell you, I don't know. I'm not sure what's being done about it. That folks are taking these cases to court, but that's going to take a while before any of that, whether it stops anything. And there's some of the violence you're seeing happening there. But I don't know how long it takes because, and especially while Donald Trump and his administration, they're defying federal judges. They ask them to remove troops. They don't. They just leave them there. And what is the recourse, Doctor? What is the recourse?
Look, the recourse is that we need to demand accountability at the ballot box. The worry that I and so many of us should have is that the way our process should work is that when an administration undergoes public policy that we disagree with, that we can vote in accountability. Presidents are elected every 4 years, but Congress and 30% of the Senate is elected every 2. And the worry that I think all of us should have is the threat against a free and fair election. And that means that all of us right now need to be standing up to demand freedom and fairness in the next election. You're already seeing them come for that in this redistricting bonanza that you're seeing on the part of red states. But I also understand that the value of the fact that our elections are overseen by states is that we can operate at the state level to protect free and fair elections. But beyond that, I need to see more accountability, more engagement with the current crop of federal elected officials we have right now. Strongly worded letters are not going to do it. Just simply bringing signs is not going to do it. I want folks to be willing to go to their communities every single day and show up when there is accountability against the federal government. When we're talking about peaceful, nonviolent protest, we have a responsibility to stand up and lead that effort. And so we need to see a lot more of that from the current crop of elected officials we already have.
I want to talk about what's happening with MAGA. I mentioned that MAGA is, they're very disheartened, many of them, the influencers and the politicians, with Donald Trump in this administration, especially after Pete Hegseth announced last week that they were going to allow a new Qatari air base here in America. This is a headline from Laura Loomer. She tweeted out, "This is an abomination." She also said that that we're going to be a Muslim country for allowing this to happen. And then she says, "I'm not voting in 2026. And then Nick Fuentes is slamming Donald Trump over his celebration of Israel, the Israel celebration. He is saying Trump's celebratory speech in Israel is disgusting. He's praising Miriam Adelson for being Israel first, calls for Netanyahu to be pardoned. And within minutes of the war ending, they began to whitewash what happened in Gaza and get everyone to move on. We will never forget." And then you have this from Candace Owens.
And Trump wants a Nobel Peace Prize, by the way, for the planned ethnic cleansing so that they could profit on the land and turn it into a beach town. So let me say this. This is our never again, okay? This is a Holocaust. A Holocaust just happened. A real Holocaust just happened. And we will never forget this. You need to tell your children what happened in Gaza. You need to tell them exactly who did it, exactly whose families were involved in this. And when you hear in the future somebody tell you, like, we're going to Gaza Beach for a vacation, you need to look at them like they are the absolute vermin of our society, because they are. They are. Their children will be cursed, okay? If you go and you play in the sand where you know that your forefathers planned to mass murder children, you will be cursed. Every person who steps foot on that, every family that is set to inherit what they did, they will be cursed. Your children's children will be cursed. Gaza belongs to nobody but the Palestinians. So when you begin to move the Israelis in there, and when the Trump Hotel gets built on there, I caution the rest of the world to stay far away from that cursed land, because something is coming. You can't commit that much evil in broad daylight and not think it's going to come back to haunt you.
Wow. I mean, when you've lost Candace Owens, Doctor.
It is a mind-blowing moment. And, I got no love lost for Nick Fuentes or Laura Loomer, who tweets about me every week now, or Candace Owens.
Right on.
And I disagree with the Islamophobia and the anti-Semitism that too often gets spewed. But it is a moment right now where you watch this administration move, and they're doing the things that anybody who would have tried to extrapolate from the last month of his first term into the future, you would have predicted. And you start to realize that folks have been duped. And I spend most of my days up and down the state of Michigan. And I'm talking to folks, 20%, 30% of every room that I walk into voted for Donald Trump. And they're saying the same things in different language. I didn't think he was serious about that stuff. I thought he was finally going to help me out. And there are two overwhelming realizations that always hit me right in the chest that I really want to share with your viewers. The first one is, we've got an opportunity for those of us who want to see this country head forward in a direction of peace, prosperity, and honest leadership. We've got an opportunity to come together to build something that's greater than the sum of its parts, if we are willing to go back to the ideals of a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. But then the second overwhelming realization that I often have is, what went wrong in the Democratic Party that we couldn't beat that? And it's so frustrating to me because I ran once before in 2018. I said this thing that people weren't quite ready to hear, which is that Donald Trump himself is not the disease of our politics. He's just the worst symptom of the disease of our politics. And when you deal with the symptom, but you don't deal with the disease, the symptom comes back worse. And that disease is the way that corporations, oligarchs have been able to corrupt our system to buy and sell politicians to do their bidding. So when you talk to everyday folks out in the sticks in Michigan, right, communities where, right, there aren't that many people and they have traditionally voted for Donald Trump, when you have that conversation and you start talking about democracy and protecting democracy, they'll look back at you and say, democracy hasn't been delivering for me for years. It hasn't actually been helping to make sure I can stay in my home, or the job I've worked every last year is going to be there for me next year, or made sure that my kid goes to a quality school where they can get jobs for tomorrow. And if we can't make democracy actually deliver on the basic foundations of a dignified life, in a lot of ways, people have foregone that the democracy was broken a long time ago, and this is just the final set of nails in the coffin. So I think we have a unique opportunity right now to come together in communities across places like Michigan and other states to come back to the ideals of a politics that actually will deliver on those basic things, taking money out of politics, putting money back in people's pockets, passing basic guaranteed healthcare, Medicare for all, that can bring everyone together beyond the culture war that has platformed the Nick Fuenteses and the Laura Loomers and the Candace Owens of the world, to bring folks back who've been systematically lied to. Because if they're lying to the culture warriors, they've been lying to the everyday voters for decades. And the question is, who's going to be the one who tells them the truth? And I think we got that opportunity.
I don't know if you saw Mehdi Hassan's, I don't know if it was a tweet or whatever you want to call it. He put it up yesterday. This is what Mehdi said. Let me get my glasses here. He said, the hostage release today and the credit Trump is getting is a reminder of just how bad the Democrats are at politics. Not only did Biden refuse to force his deal on Netanyahu and thereby help Harris defeat Trump, but most people aren't even aware that Biden got way more Israeli hostages, over 100 released from captivity, with his November 23rd ceasefire than Trump did with his. But that ceasefire has been memory hold, including by many Dems. The Dems are often their own worst enemies. Now, there were a lot of folks who on this, in the comment section who disagree with Mehdi, saying, also blaming the media. This one person says, history will be way more kind to Biden and his accomplishments. I don't think it will be so kind to the biased media. So what do you make of this whole thing and what Mehdi said? Is this messaging? Do you agree with him?
I try not to waste my time debating the legacies of old men. I'm a lot more interested in where we go from here.
Good.
I am deeply saddened that we could not have gotten here earlier. And I think everybody involved with allowing a genocide to perpetuate for 2 years has blood on their hands. And to me, that means Donald Trump, that means Joe Biden. This should never have been here. And it certainly means Netanyahu and all of his enablers inside of Israeli politics. And it means, frankly, everyone in Congress who greenlit all of this money that we sent abroad to do what was done. The question to me right now the question that matters for a child in Gaza or a child in Detroit is, are we willing to take what has happened here, look at it in its totality, not just 2 years of genocide, but decades of brutal occupation and siege before that, thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people dead, homes decimated, schools destroyed, hospitals broken. Are we willing to look at that in its totality and say, we need to foundationally turn the page? Because I hate to say it, it was our tax dollars that subsidized this. $22 billion of our tax dollars. And guess what? They're about to certify to send more. And my question right now is, when do we call it an end, right? Because as we talked about, Donald Trump is trying to get his flowers on bringing this to the slimmest margin of a peace. But to me, peace is structural, built on justice and accountability and a pathway forward for the highest needs of peoples, regardless of who they are. How do we build for that? Like, that's what I want to focus on. And right now, I hate to say it, the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, our politics generally have been dominated around this. Politics dominated because there is a lot of MAGA billionaire money spent to dictate outcomes of elections, right? Through huge amounts of attack ads spent in congressional and senatorial and gubernatorial elections across the country. And maybe that's a good place to start, right? So, I've been clear. I would never seek AIPAC's endorsement or their money. I don't take any corporate money because I think that's part of the problem. So are we willing to actually have a structural analysis of what led us here and how we stop doing this in the future rather than debating the legacies of two old men?
Yeah. With pictures of Gaza up right now. Doctor, thank you so much. Where do we find you? Where can the folks who listen and support me, where can they support you and your podcast?
Well, I really appreciate that. So go ahead and follow us on socials. I'm at Abdul El-Sayed, ABDUL, the traditional spelling, El-Sayed, EL-SAYED, or go to abdulforsenate.com. Look, I don't take corporate money. So for folks who want to chip us a couple bucks, it is huge for us. We just closed our last quarter. We raised 1.77 million, 24,000 donors. And if you'd like to join them and help our truly people-powered movement, I hope that you will. And follow us. We'll be dropping more fun videos as we go, because, if you want to build the future, you have to show the joy that's possible in that future. And we try to bring that on our campaign every single day. There's a lot of darkness. So we're trying to bring some joy about the future we can yet build together. And I hope that folks will join us. And Don, I'm so grateful for you. We got to meet when we were talking about another dark period in the COVID pandemic on CNN. I'm just grateful that you've continued your work here, and we'd love to join you again. So you let us know, and looking forward to seeing you soon. Okay.
Well, I got to tell you, we'd love to have you because the engagement is really great this morning, and the lemon heads, as we call it, the lemon nation, really like you. So Dr. Abdul El-Sayed is running for the open Senate seat in the great state of Michigan. How are you doing there? You doing okay in the polls?
We feel really good. The polling shows us right there, tied for first statistically. And then, I'm not a betting man, but apparently people who do bet, the prediction markets got us up. So, I guess I'll take it. And up until then, my job, more importantly, is to make sure I'm resonating with folks in communities across the state. We've been to 58, 59 cities now, 120 public events. We go everywhere, talk to everybody. And those conversations, they give me so much hope in our future, because I'm seeing real people and what they're feeling and what they want for their kids and their grandkids. And if we can all touch on that feeling, that emotion, I think we can get there, as dark as these times have been.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Best of luck. Come back soon. Okay. I'll talk to you soon. Well, that was a breath of fresh air. I'm so glad that he's here and that he was here. And I'm glad. I'd love to see candidates like that. And look, I don't vote in Michigan, but man, if I live there, he might he'd probably get my vote. I'm just saying. He seems on top of it. He's got the right tone. He's got the right message. He looks the part. Like Donald Trump says, out of central casting. I want to talk to you more about the manosphere and the politicians who are turning on MAGA, but that's another time. We'll do that at a later time, maybe later on tonight, or maybe I'll put something up on the channel. But I wanted to spend as much time with him as possible because I think he's a good guy. And if you don't support him, if you don't vote for him or whatever, I just think his wisdom is appreciated and that we should listen to it, especially considering that he knows he lives in Michigan and he comes from a background to know more about Gaza than in the state of politics there than I will ever know, and most of us here. So if you want to know anything about the Don Lemon Show, here's what you do. You go to donlemon.com and you can click on watch. It'll take you straight to our main page on YouTube. That's where our main show is. That's that's our headquarters. And you can subscribe, and you can also join the community and you can get community updates or whatever it is that you need. Okay. So go there. Subscriptions are free. The memberships are extremely reasonable. I want to welcome all of our new members, and I want to thank you all for your generosity and for your support. I've seen it all come popping up, as I've been speaking here on the screen about the folks who are supporting. So thank you so much. Like and subscribe to the Don Lemon Show. We appreciate it. We're closing in on, I think we're like at 940,000. So we're 950. We're almost at the halfway mark, meaning, between 100,000 to get to 1 million. So we're almost at 950,000. And then those last 50, we're going to be like at the marathon in Chicago, getting to those last 50,000 so that we can get to 1 million, which is where we deserve to be. Okay. So go to donlemon.com and check that out. Also check out our merch if you want to know. I think I'm just going to start wearing black t-shirts. I was saying that to myself the other day because it's easier than just getting like a bunch of Don Lemon Show merch. I need a black Don Lemon Show hat. We need a black Don Lemon Show mug, and on and on. Let me show you what I did real quick. So usually, like these glasses, I take them on and off because, right, these are my prescription glasses. These are the ones that, these are the ones that you go and you pay a lot of money for at the doctor and you hope that you don't lose them, right? And so, but they are progressive. So in order for me to read, I got to keep doing this and I keep doing that, and it's weird. And so these are just plain readers, and this is what happened to them, where I don't have to do all of that. I told you guys. I got to slow down, man. I got to stop working so hard. Okay. Do we have any merch pictures or no? Should we save them for later?
Yeah, let's save them.
Let's save them for later. Okay. So I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. I want you to be informed without being inundated. I'm going to see you back here at 5 p.m. Eastern on the Don Lemon Show on the Don Lemon channel. Check us out on all of our platforms, which is YouTube, TikTok. We're not on TikTok. TikTok gave us a suspension for body shaming. Like we were fat shaming someone. We weren't even talking about bodies. Like it's so their AI is so weird. So we're not on TikTok this morning, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? TikTok, you gotta do better, man. We're not fat shaming anybody. We didn't even mention anybody's body. It was so weird. Do you guys have that? TikTok has been really weird lately. I told you guys that on TikTok, people tell me that they followed me and then they'll log off of their app or go out of the app and then come back and they'll no longer be following me. Or the algorithm for some reason is like pushing conservative stuff on me. It seems to me, it feels like they're suppressing content that is not glowing of Donald Trump or anything that criticizes Donald Trump. Or if it shows, if you show people being roughed up by ICE agents or law enforcement, they suppress it. Like what? Why? They'll show like not Nick. Oh my God, God forbid, Charlie Kirk. His demise, but you can't show an ICE agent beating up a citizen or a civilian or a migrant or an undocumented person. Like, what gives? Or it'll suppress the content because of that. This is a lot of people get their news from social media and even TikTok. TikTok, you got to get your shit together. Now, I know you're going into an era. They're going into an era where it's going to be owned by conservatives, but come on. Maybe they'll have to find some other platform from, other than TikTok that's just going to promote and amplify right-wing MAGA talking points. Let me know if you guys have that. I've had that experience so many times that we have been suspended or we have been, our reach has been minimized because of things that we weren't even doing. And we have to say, okay, go back and review this because none of what you're saying is true. It happens almost every single day on TikTok. Anyway, we'll talk about the consolidation of media to conservatives or whatever. But yes, I do believe that they are censoring and suppressing some of the content, especially as it relates to ICE and the Trump administration. That's just my belief. Okay. So I'll see you back here at 5 p.m. Eastern on the Don Lemon Show and the Don Lemon channel. Be informed without being inundated. Until I see you then, turn the TV off. Thanks everyone for watching. Your support means the world to us. So make sure you hit the like button and you subscribe to our channel to make sure that you never ever miss a video. We're live every day, 10 a.m. Eastern time. We drop even more content at 2 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Eastern. And if you want more Don Lemon Show content, we'd love for you to become a member of the Lemon community, where you will receive access to special community posts. You'll get exclusive content and members-only live shows. So head over to our channel page or click the join button on this video. Again, thank you for watching. We appreciate your love and your support.